Hi guys, welcome to my S4 build. I really don't have much to show you at the moment because I just spent a ton of money ordering parts and very little's actually come in yet. And as you've seen that I posted what I have as I go pretty much daily because I'm working a little bit on this project every day. So as you can see, as you know, I've got Cosworth diffs. Well, one's from a real Cosworth two-wheel drive. The other one is Sierra Sapphire Cosworth four-wheel drive. So the one with the 108 CV flanges, that's out the two-wheel drive Cosworth Sierra, and that has a viscous limited slip. So the limited slip from this one's going to end up in this one, which is the front. This is not actually a front diff. This is the Sierra Sapphire 4x4, which had smaller CV flanges, the hundreds, as they call them. I don't remember the specific designation of the flanges. I just go by the generic outside diameter. But anyway, this is an open diff because most of Sapphires had traction control and ABS, so Ford decided to dispense with a limited slip. So this one's going to be my front, but it's going to have to run upside down to get the rotation right, and that's going to have the viscous coupling that's in that one, in this one, and that's going to have a plate differential. And I don't know exactly what the spec's going to be right now, but it's going to be very close to what the S4 used. A lot of it be determined by a transmission guy that will be doing the four-wheel drive inline sequential gearbox. He'll be the one that will probably advise me on what ramp setup I should get in the diffs. So I soon hope to have that laid out with the engine, the diffs, so you can get an idea how it's going to look. Cranks out the engine. I thought originally it was junk, but it's not. It's absolutely spot on. Didn't have any oil problems, although you can see there's a slight discoloration. So I think it was right on the edge of starvation, but they measure up size for size. But what I found was these internal drillings in there, because it's a cross-drill crank, so it's really high-quality stuff, you know, straight from Fiat Lancia, is that oil had started to build up sludge. It was reducing feed to the big end. So it's good this engine didn't run any longer than it did, because I think it was just about to run out. The other thing they say about you know, the Lampredi engine is that, you know, the cams tell you the condition of the engine, and sorry, it's not a very good representation here, but the cams are immaculate. Yeah, they're dirty. The head's out being vapor blasted. It might be ready today, and then I'm going to mock up the engine. So I'm waiting for the dry sump pan. So I'll have the head back on, just a couple of bolts, the dry sump pan. I've got my pump that I didn't realise I had, so it's kind of handy that I bought this for another project but didn't use it. And this is my Pace dry sump pump, and spoken to the owners of Pace, and they say it's absolutely perfect pump for this engine. It's got the right delivery and everything. So I've ordered the drive for it. So he does have a drive system. Only need minor modification. I'll have to make the bracket, but the oil pump, dry sump pump bracket will go off of the old, where the old oil filter sandwich plate went. So this one will be plugged because that is the old oil hole out of the from a wet sump. So that will be plugged, and this is the main feed that will have a hose in. So I'll have a plate and then an angle bracket, and then the pump will be on the side with a belt drive off the front of the crank. On this side, the engine is where the Eaton blower is going. Now physically this is much smaller what Lancia used. But you've got to remember, you know, that was all in its infancy of supercharging really back then. And they're just using a roots blower, which is really inefficient. And it's a huge unit. But this spins at twice our, you know, crank speed. So this little thing can put out tons of airflow, and it can spin up to 14,750 RPM safely. Although they don't recommend going beyond 15,000, well, because of the efficiency. I only need this thing to have, as we know, just off, you know, low throttle position boost. So I'm going to spin it just slightly under 2 to 1, so that it never, if I rev this engine to say potentially max 8,000, but 7,500, I don't want this to go beyond 14,005. So I've got a safety margin in it. And this, although I can't really do it single-handed, will be mounted like that off the plate that I, you know, put a picture in. That's being water jet cut. And as you know, these engines from the 2 litre, late 2 litre, they ran these awful balance shafts, which I'll have to buy the elimination kit, which there's a cam bearing in the middle there and one on the other side. They need to be removed. They give you a plug that goes in there so you don't lose any oil feed. And the rest are just caps. Well, I'm leaving the pulley wheel that drives those balance shafts, which I have over here, is, oh, I don't have it right here. It's in my van, I forgot. But anyway, there's a pulley wheel. You have the timing belt wheel at the front of the pump cover, and then they put another pulley wheel to drive these. And they drove these balance shafts at twice RPM. Well, I need to drive the blower basically almost 2 times RPM. So I'm going to utilize the timing belt that's on the front of the crank here already to drive that. So I just need a custom made pulley for that with the right trapezoidal, you know, teeth. I think it's an HTD, 3/8 HTD, but I need to take it to one of these belt transmission places to make sure that I get the right pulley. And as it happens, we've got one right in our town that's only about 5 miles away. That's all they do is build timing belt drives for industry and automotive. So I'll get a pulley from them, and I need to get this mocked up because the packaging is really important. The original car, the engine and gearbox were essentially bolted to the rear diff. It was all as like one, although they weren't really one unit, they were bolted so that it was a fairly rigid setup. I want to get something close to that, but because the drive what I'll be doing is a 6R4 type gearbox, it means the outputs from the gearbox are on the other side. And so it'll obviously be mirrored, but, you know, from where the original car was. And I may not lean the engine. They lent the engine about 10 degrees. But I'll have to see how it all works out. I may run the engine upright. I might be able to get 10 degrees, but it'd be in the other direction. The key thing is to try and get balance on the chassis, so you're not weighting the chassis one side or the other with the drive line. So that's going to be the balance. So as soon as the ladder's built, which I want to start really quickly, but things just keep on holding me up. Once the ladder's built, I can then mock things up. Of course, I'll have to have the gearbox, or at least have to imagine where the gearbox is with its weight, and then I can determine exactly where everything goes. And the diffs need to be as low as possible in the ladder chassis, just at the bottom edge. I think I'm going to have where the gearbox, the shaft will come out on this side. It's going to have to be under the pan for the rear diff, which will be right at the front of what's the front of the engine is actually the back of the car. I believe the drive to the rear axle will have to be a CV drive, which is what Lancia did with the S4, because that shaft has to be very close to the engine. It means you can't have a big diameter. Anyway, that's where we are right now. Sorry about that, I thought my camera stopped working. So I've been scanning drawings, and my CAD guy has been looking, you know, at everything. And we come up, I told him to stop yesterday because there's no point doing any more. You know, I've got the ladder frame dimensions, and I've had him redraw it in 50mm because I thought I could only get 35mm box, high grade steel. And yesterday afternoon, I found out I can get 2-inch box, which is 50.8mm T45, and I can get 16 CDV6, which is a vanadium moly steel box from Performance Metals in Daventry in the middle of England. So I'm sent them an email, they didn't reply, so today I'm calling them and I find out which one of those 2 boxes they have. I'm sure it's going to be really expensive. Probably, I won't be surprised if it's 50 or even 60 pounds a metre, but I only need 16 metres of it. So anyway, probably the T45 is going to be the way to go, because this is my Stratus that I originally had huge enthusiasm to do, and this I have to finish off. I have to get this out of the way because this will stop me from building the S4. But I've got my last bit of T45 there to go in there for my brace, and then this car can come off the jig. I got to fully weld it over the Christmas New Year because a lot of it's not welded underneath. It's a lot of tacks and you know, but it has to come off to be fully welded, and I then got to put all suspension mounts on it and make it a rolling chassis. Got bodywork over here. Got bodywork in storage. And essentially, I've lost interest in this car because I would have wanted to do an S4 in the beginning, but at that time, when I started this project about 2.5 years ago, there's no way I could afford to do that transmission because it's definitely the most expensive single item you're going to buy. But my feeling with the Stratus is twofold. I love the car, but the thing is, the number of people with, you know, replica Stratus is huge. I mean, there's more replica Stratus around than the factory ever made. They're 449 or 499 real cars. And there's a lot of, also, there's twofold. There's a lot of these people that are super picky. I don't want to go to a Stratus Club event. You know, some are all obsessed with putting original parts on their fake cars, and I can't just get into that at all. So I'm not interested. The other thing with Stratus is you can't get away from that high center of gravity engine sitting in the back. So you can put all the stickiest wheels and everything you've got on it, but it was a concept that is very good in limited scenarios, obviously dry traction. But as we all know, this is a car that can only really be on the throttle, on the brakes, and it's a very, very twitchy. You can't drift this car at all. It's just going to spin around. So I just think it's not really, even though I love the shape of them, I've lost my interest in it. So hence, it's for sale, and I hope that I find a buyer for it in the springtime, because I don't really want to have to shelve it. But you know, I've got a lot of interest, but nobody's bitten it yet. So I've got to get it to a rolling chassis to make it, get it to a point where somebody's actually going to buy it from me. Because this has to go, this jig's going to be unbolted from the floor, and then come January, you know, it may even be late December, I'm going to start building the S4 chassis, and the body I should have the body. Once I have that body, I can confirm the dimensions of the roll hoop, because that's how I started this car. I started with, you know, the basic frame layout, and then or over here, when I had the body, I made a wooden template here that fit in the body shell to determine my bend radiuses of the roll hoop. And you can see it sort of over here. A bit hard to imagine, but that's the body there. We're going to do exactly the same thing with the S4, because the S4 had a square rectangular section roll hoop, 50 by 70 in chrome moly. Well, of course, I don't want to do that because, you know, that's not a safe material. And they only made it out of like 1.5 mil thick. But it did form the profile of the body, because the body is very slab-sided and the panels go to it really tight. So I will have a compromise. Well, I'll have a round hoop. This is 45 millimeter, but the S4 is going to be in 50. And then when it comes to a radius like that, the S4 has a corner and the body fits to it tight. That'll have to be made out of a high-grade sheet steel, Docal or something similar, so that there's no voids. So that's a critical point to get to, is get the ladder done, get this jig cleared, get the ladder frame built up, get the main body on, and then get the profile of the main roll hoop, have that bent, and that then determines pretty much everything else, because the main cage, everything's going to be built off of that, which is how I did this car. And I know where the suspension pickups are, so they get jigged, and then you can lay out the tubes to make all the interconnecting parts. I mean, this car really is the S4's absolute total race car, because you know, there's lots of gaps in the bodywork, and it had Kevlar firewall, everything in it, and you know, they actually bonded the Kevlar over the roll cage, over the suspension parts on the front. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. I've ordered all the interior panels in carbon Kevlar, although it doesn't look as trick as the Kevlar. It's a better material, because Kevlar is super strong in tension but not very good in compression, whereas the carbon Kevlar covers both things. And it also, when I get those panels which are molded off original, it tells me where the tubes are. So although it's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, I have enough scale drawings, I have enough from what my CAD man's done, that when I have the bodywork, the rest will become evident as to exactly where those tubes go. And since I've decided I'm going to do the 50 mil as the original in the base ladder, everything should become clearer as the bodywork is mounted and where everything goes. So I've got suspension ordered. Cannot order the wheels yet because I don't know the exact brake clearance, so I'm going to have to hold on that. I was trying to order wheels, but I don't want to make a mistake. So it's easy to buy something and then later say, oh, that's no good. So I don't want to be doing that. It's very easy to do this, to make mistakes. So that's it for the time being, and then hopefully I'll have a video in a couple of months' time, now hopefully shorter than that, with I'm actually starting to put this car together, because I really want the car pretty much done within a year. I mean, it may not be fully operational, but I think I can get a lot done within 1 year. So that's the plan. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.